All right, so as David said, tonight is Tuesday night, which means it's Torah study night. We're going to go through Lech Lecha, which is this week's Torah portion. As always, we're going to basically start off with anybody that's new here. We're going to do some prayer time. Then we're going to read the study. And then after we read this week's portion, then we're going to go ahead and have some quick announcements and then follow that up with a discussion of what we read as we go through Genesis chapters 12 through 17:27 with this week's teaching now, or this week's study. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to have David to lead the prayer time and the readings, and I will be back for the announcements and the midrash, I hope. So we'll see. Otherwise, David, you're in good hands. He's got this all under control. So David, go ahead. I've already started the recording, so that's good. I'll be trying to monitor things here. Go ahead and take it through prayer time as well as the readings. I'm trying to think if there's anything critical on the announcements. I don't think so. But we'll try to see whatever we need to. So please, if all of you are here, if you can make it through to the 9 o'clock hour, or an hour from now, I will have the announcements for you if there's anything that you guys need to know about. Anyway. David, no sound. I don't hear you, buddy.
How about now? Is that better?
Oh, there you are. Now you're back.
Something happened. So I was saying, the Father has everything under control. I'm just trying to get out of the way and make a pleasant experience for all. So here we go with praises and prayers. Praise reports, prayer requests, type them in, or if you'd like the mic, raise your hand and we can give that to you to say what you need to say. Just going to scroll up to see if I missed anybody. Let's see, Santi saying, wonderful to see the new worship place. Praise Father. Amen. That was probably one of my favorite parts of seeing the live stream was the look on Rabbi's face when he said, wait a second, I don't have to break anything down. We don't have to break anything down. And just this look of relief, it was honestly well-deserved. Praise Yah. I mean, side note, I listened to the Lech Lecha study from last year just to prepare again for tonight, and they're still, talking about, but hopefully by the end of this year, the Father will provide a permanent home, and boy, did he. Amen. We have Rabbi Tom and Joanne, Baruch Hashem, Yahweh, we're heading to Cleveland, Tennessee. Moving, wow. Praise Yah, amazing news, Rabbi Tom. Sorry that I missed that, but I'm glad that I saw Rick's comments that made me scroll up. Praise from John and Roberta. Shalom, Mishpacha, thanks for praying. Roberta's platelets are back in normal. Maurice, Elena, and the Red family. Tennessee in about 2 weeks. Praise for Yah's provision of a job in Tennessee. Prayer for housing and that our current house would sell. Praise for Yah leading us to be under this leadership and the wisdom they have been given by him. Amen. Unspoken from Laura in Oregon. A lot of congratulations to Rabbi Tom and Rebbetzin Joanne. It's fantastic. Very happy for you indeed. From Tammy in Sacramento. Prayer for an old friend who reached out after 18 years to let me know she is dying. Sorry, the screen jumped. Of stage 4 liver cancer. Yep. It's cancer is everywhere. Definitely keep that in prayer. Unspoken for work from Earl. Shalom, Earl. About 6 hours driving south from where I am sitting right now. Stephen Gwen. Prayer for us, please. Amen. Monica Hughes. Continual prayer for all of us seeking to move to Tennessee. Dave has put in applications at multiple places with no response. Same for me, just waiting for Abba's perfect timing. Amen, amen. His perfect timing indeed. and we know that his timing is the right timing, and he's in charge. Great example of emunah there, Monica. Steve elaborates at prayer. We have 2 different court matters before us this month. Unspoken from Lorraine. Healing for Rhonda from Kevin and Rhonda Hamilton. Unspoken and open doors for work from Renee. Artha and Linda. Couple provinces over up here in Canada. Prayer that Linda's house, her mother's estate, would sell. Market is dead now. Many houses not selling. From Bob and Yvonne. Another province over. Hello, Canadians. Prayer request for Mike Lassell. He had a heart attack yesterday and is scheduled for surgery on Thursday to open arteries. Absolutely. Jana, court at the end of this month. Keep that in prayer. Prayer requests for all my mishpacha. Yahweh knows my needs, says Janice in Orlando. Greg and Mary. Several unspoken, please. Unspoken from Laura, also in Ontario, I believe. Chris and Tiffany, prayer for my 3-year-old grandniece, Tatum, who has a UTI and 100-degree fever. Definitely way too high for a 3-year-old. Keep Tatum in prayer. Praise from Candace to praise Yahweh because he is working on my behalf to get me to Cleveland, Tennessee. I may not have the knowledge as to how it will happen, but he does, and that is all that matters. Amen. He knows. We just have to wait. We're on a need-to-know basis, and sometimes we don't need to know. Kelly West, praise Yah for providing me and Tammy Harvey with an apartment to call home. Fantastic. Saw that praise on the live stream last week. Or the week before, sorry. Many unspoken from Lisa Hoff. Bib family, headed by Nolan, please pray for our housing and job applications that we are hoping to hear back from this week. Praise for all the assistance we are receiving with these. Amen. Kelly, also some unspoken prayers. Unspoken from Aaron Sullivan, Cheryl, and Trisha. Also unspoken from Tom and Carmen Losardo, down there in Fort Lauderdale. Earl, praise my 39-year-old son reached out to me after many years apart. Prayer for shalom and wisdom with our interaction. Amen. Praise Yah indeed. Hayes family, shalom, shalom. Prayers for house to sell in Virginia. Nolan adds, and please pray for Jennifer. She is feeling under the weather. So many praises, too many to name here. From Sarah Beth. Rick Berry, Pennsylvania, prayer requests for relief from stress-induced hives due to recent deaths and added responsibilities, and for your Yah's guidance in planning move to Tennessee. Continued prayer for Kevin and Aaron's health issues, prayer for Earl's transportation issues, multiple unspokens. Couple of unspokens from Ollie, now back in his home country in Australia. Really glad you guys made it safe. Santi Lee, pray for my current Chinese clients to accept the truth. Pray for the right place to send them for worship as their English proficiency is poor. Apparently mine was too, pronouncing that word. English proficiency is poor. That's a tongue twister. From Joyce in Quebec, thank Abba for shalom at work. Amen. Alana in Colorado, unspoken prayers. Helen Sue Smith is asking Shamash Roberts' help for Pat Novak to get onto Adobe Connect. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Guest is Laura Lee in New York. She has many prayer requests. Abba knows them all. I am overwhelmed with life right now. Thank you. Absolutely. And if there's any overwhelming feeling, that is what we are here for. We being the leadership to receive that call for counsel, headed by Rabbi Steve Shamash Robert. So please don't hesitate to call as per Rabbi's instructions. He's not too busy to take something that is urgent or something that he can help with counsel. Praise from Ahi Raymond. Finally getting my roof replacement project underway. Been waiting years with only partial work possible here and there. Now, thanks to Abba moving brothers local, and also not, to lend hands and expertise, this is moving forward. Praise also for the test Abba is allowing in all this. The bank rejected the check from the insurance company that is supposed to pay for everything. Not really sure how we're supposed to fund the project if this doesn't go through. Hallelujah for his wisdom. Amen. Praising for tests, counting joys and trials. Indeed. Praise from Tom that his wife's father turned 90. Awesome. Only 9 years short of how old Abraham was when he was circumcised. 90, that is an accomplishment. Praise indeed. Sean saying praise Yahweh for Dave's leadership in Canada, SPO. It's referring to me. Definitely can talk about that, but thank you, Sean. Praise Abba indeed. Just be able to step up and serve the body as needed. Not sure what the SPO was, but got the gist. Craig Lane, praises for all Abba is doing to serve the body through MTOI and YMTOI. Prayers for our leadership and their families. Praises for all he is and all he does for us. Amen. Everything he is. Endless. Gary and Tanya Flint, MTOI Lakeview. Praise Abba for the growth here at MTOI Lakeview. And 2 more guests this past Shabbat. Hopefully they will both return. Yes, we hope that guests return until they are no longer guests but our family, as Rabbi Steve says, every single week at Shabbat. Which apparently is about 3 times. That's the rule. Robert and Nancy Prodol. Thanks to Yah, colonoscopy went well and no problem. Still dealing with bad head cold. Praise Yah for that, Robert. Glad to hear an update after this morning's prayer request. Lynn Gibson, please continue to pray for the Wyatt family displaced due to Hurricane Michael. Absolutely, amen. Watch Tamara's testimony on the live stream. Can only imagine that feeling, and just also knowing the amazing mishpacha that is helping them or helped them while they were in Tennessee. So really praise Yah for that and continued prayers. Jonathan Thompson, praise Abba for a widow's smile of relief as the tables are turning in her legal battles with the vultures. Prayers for unspoken. Amen. Ken and Teresa, praise Abba for his love and mercy. Amen. Lots going on from Tommy Stevenson. Praise for endurance. Yep, yeah. Pat is now in the room. Imagine there's no need for a call. Absolutely. Thank you, Shamash Robert. Artha and Linda. Prayer that all well with Fred and Barbara, unable to reach them. Communications down in Florida. Absolutely. Definitely keep Fred and Barbara 90 and 86 years old, respectively, in our prayers. Just fantastic. Just amazing people. Such a joy. Praise Abba to meet them at Sukkot. Sharon Masters, prayer for my sister-in-law in Panama City. She has a tree on her house, a damaged roof, no electricity or water or communications. A lot of people affected by that indeed. Walter and Rachel in Maryland was in an accident yesterday. Praise it was not serious, just cosmetic, and asking for prayers for the paperwork. Prayer for Anthony's injured shoulder healing. This is Anthony and Jamie Crone. Diane Bloom, praise for the delivery of my grandson, Archie, this past Shabbat. Amen. Congratulations. Prayers for the rapid recovery for my daughter who had a very difficult delivery. Both mom and baby are doing well, but she is very sore. Praise Yah. Congratulations, Diane. Unspoken prayer for Janet from the Hoffman family in Texas. A couple other people typing. And we'll wrap up shortly here. Wrap up as in the prayer aspect. I think the guest, if it's the same guest, that would be Laura Lee in New York. If that's the same guest. I know she had said that earlier in a prayer request. It's a different guest, and I don't know. But that one, I believe, is Laura Lee in New York. Unspoken from Freddie. I have a prayer here for my wife, Samia. Continued recovery. Just because you finish chemo, the side effects don't just stop that day after. So please continue prayer for her. Also, she returned to work today. Praise Yah for that. So just strength and guidance and all of that. Confirmed by Laura Lee. Yes, she is the guest. And the Jacksons, pray for my husband for his back and neck pain. Absolutely. Maybe a couple others. Definitely continued prayer for the entire MTOI headquarters team as they just continue to do amazing work, amazing men and women helping, getting everything together. I'm only seeing it from, afar, just as much as the others like you, but definitely know that they are doing an awesome job. So continue to keep them in prayer and praises for that new wonderful building. Prayers for Poison Ivy, again, and a few unspokens from Carrie in Ohio. That looks like that's just about everybody. Praise Yah, David joining us for a Torah study tonight. Awesome. Welcome, David. And shalom, Amy. It's really honestly fantastic to be able to know many of these names and know the faces and have, been able to even spend a meal or two at Sukkot. So it really, really does help being able to visualize all of you gathered around a computer or tablet or whatever and know that we are family here, even though it's just text on a screen. Okay, well, we'll let those couple last ones come through, and then, yeah, it looks like it's all done. Might have a prayer request from our rabbi. Pray for both children, Stephen and Brianna, definitely slightly under the weather. Of course, Rabbi. All right, so with that, we will ask one of the men to open us up in prayer, please. A couple people raise their hand. And Earl, you had your hand up right off the bat, so we're going to let Earl Lee from Lethbridge and Alberta Ahi open us up in prayer with the prayer requests and praise and opening this.
Mic test. Avinu Mateno, our Father, our King, may we humbly approach your throne. Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Father, all of us come together loving you and appreciating you and thanking you for us being in your lives. Father, I lift up all the praise requests for our brothers and sisters, all the unspoken, anything for finances and health and family issues. Father, I thank you for MTOI and all the leadership, and I just ask that you continue to bless them as they help us walk this walk. And bless this Torah study tonight in Yeshua's authority. Amen and amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Earl. Thank you for that prayer. And definitely we are spending time with the Word and allow us to learn what we need to learn. So great. So tonight we are going into Parshat Lecha. We have going from chapter 12, verse 1 to 17, verse 27. And we have 12 readers. So, Earl, you're welcome to keep your hand up if you'd like to read. So we'll need 11 other hands to read tonight in Lech, Lecha. And if you're new and just joining us, what we do is we read the Torah portion and then discuss it. And we are using the Torah portion cycle, a 54 portion cycle, used and cultivated and preserved by Brother Judah. So we are in the third week, that is Lech Lecha. And so yeah, what does that mean? What does Lech Lecha mean? As we like to do, just to get a context of the name and maybe where we're heading. You go. From Greg and Mary, absolutely, go forth. 12, Raymond, we're looking for 12. So definitely we've still got a couple more hands, so if you're new and you'd like a chance to read, definitely go right ahead. It's a blessing to read before brothers and sisters. You go for yourself, your own sake. Yes, you go. You go yourself. Lech Lecha. It's even repeating itself. Lecha being the possessive of you. So you go, go. Awesome. So thank you for answering there. And so yeah, we'll start off in chapter 12 with Earl. Call him up first, read the traditional blessing before each reader, and then we will go. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Earl, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. All right, Earl, you're going to take us verses 1 through 10 in chapter 12.
Amen. And Yahweh said to Abraham, go yourself out of your land, from your relatives and from your father's house, to a land which I show you, and I shall make you a great nation, bless you, make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you, and in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. So Abraham left, as Yahweh had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. And Abraham took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. And Abraham passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Morah. At the time the Canaanites were in the land. And Yahweh appeared to Abraham and said, to your seed I give this land. And he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh, who appeared to him. And from there he moved to the mountain east of Beth-el, and he pitched his tent with Beth-el on the west and Ai on the east. And he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. And Abraham set out, continuing toward the south. And a scarcity of food came to be in the land. And Abraham went down to Mitzrayim to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Earl, for starting us off. And next up, we have Kendall. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kendall, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. You're going to take us from verses 11 to 20, Kendall, still in chapter 12.
Mic check. And it came to be, when he was close to entering Mitzrayim, that he said to Sarai, his wife, See, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look at. And it shall be, when the Mitzrites see you, and they shall say, This is his wife, and they shall kill me, but let you live. Please, say you are my sister, so that it shall be well with me for your sake, and my life be spared because of you. And it came to be, when Abraham came into Mitzrayim, that the Mitzrites saw the woman, and she was very beautiful. And Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. And he treated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and cattle, and male donkeys, and male and female servants, and female donkeys and camels. But Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with a great plagues because Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this you've done to me? Why did you not inform me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister, and so I was going to take her for my wife? Look, here is your wife, take her and go. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had.
Amen. Thank you, Kendall. Next up, we have Brother Jonathan over there in California. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Jonathan, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. All right, Jonathan, you're going to start us off in chapter 13, verses 1 to 9.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
And Abram went up from Mitzrayim into the south, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the slaughter place, which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not all the land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I go to the left.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, we have Mark. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Mark, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. All right, Mark, we're going to finish chapter 13, verses 10 through 18.
Mic check. And Lot lifted his eyes, and saw all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Amorah, like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Mitzrayim as you go toward Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other. Avram dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil, and sinned before Yahweh, exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from him, Yahweh said to Avram, Now lift up your eyes, and look from the place where you are, northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever, and I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be counted. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. So Avram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built a slaughter place there to Yahweh.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mark. Next up, okay, Arthur, Linda would like to read, absolutely. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Linda, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, Linda, starting in chapter 14, verses 1 through 12. Are you there, Arthur or Linda? Your mic is still muted.
Okay. And it came to be in the days of Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, sovereign of Eliam, and Tidal, sovereign of Goyim, that they fought against Bera, sovereign of Sidon, Virshah, sovereign of Amorah, Shenab, sovereign of Admah, Shem-Eber, sovereign of Seboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedor Laomer. In the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedor Laomer and the sovereigns that were with him came and struck the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karanaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emites in Shavah, Kiriath Hayamim, and the Horites in their mountain of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and struck all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwell in Hatzetzon Tamar, and the sovereign of Sodom, and the sovereign of Amorah, and the sovereign of Admah, and the sovereign of Seboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim, against Kedor Laomer, sovereign of Eliam, and Tidal, sovereign of Goyim, and Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, and Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, 4 sovereigns against 5. And the valley of Siddim had many tar pits, and the sovereigns of Sidom and Amorah fled and fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sidom and Amorah and all their food, and went away. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sidom, and his goods, and left.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that, Linda. Next up we have Rabbi Tom. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. Okay, Rabbi Tom, you're going to finish chapter 14, verses 13 to 24.
And one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Hebrew, where he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they had a covenant with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed 318 trained servants who were born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants divided against them by night, and struck them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. And so he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot, and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And after his return from the striking of Kedorlaomer, and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sidom, came out to meet him at the valley of Sha'ah, and that is the sovereign's valley. And Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalom, brought out the bread and wine. Now he was priest of the Most High El. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High El, possessor of the heavens and earth. And blessed be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tenth of all. And the sovereign of Sidom said to Abram, Give me the people and take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the sovereign of Sidom, I have lifted my hand to Yahweh, the Most High El, the possessor of the heavens and earth, not to take a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Ashkol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Tom, as always. Next up, we have Rick Berry. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Rick, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. All right, Rick, starting chapter 15, verses 1 through 11.
All right, mic check. After these events, the words of Yah came to Avram in a vision, saying, Do not be afraid, Avram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great. And Avram said, Master Yahweh, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Avram said, See, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is my heir. And see, the word of Yahweh came to him, saying, This one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look now toward the heavens, and count the stars if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So are your seed. And he believed in Yahweh, and he reckoned it to him from righteousness. And he said to him, I am Yahweh, who brought you out of Ur-Kasdim to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Master Yahweh, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite the other, but he did not cut the birds. And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Avram drove them away.
Amen. Thank you, Rick. Next up we have Carrie. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Carrie, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Amen. So continuing the theme of finishing chapters, you'll finish chapter 15, verses 12 through 21.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay. And it came to be, when the sun was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that see, a frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, Know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are going to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a good old age. Then in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the crookedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be, when the sun went down and it was dark, that see a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Euphrates, with the Canaanite and the Kenizzite and the Cadmonite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Rephaim and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Girgashite and the Jebusite.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Carrie. Next up we have Aletha. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Aletha, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Amen. Okay, Aletha, starting chapter 16 now, verses 1 through 8.
And Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no child. And she had a Mitzrian female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abraham, See, Yahweh has kept me from bearing children. Please go into my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abraham listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mitzrian, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife. After Abraham dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abraham, My wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahweh judge between you and me. And Abraham said to Sarai, See, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarah treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of Yahweh found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from? And where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress.
Amen. Thank you, Aletha. Next up we have the Jacksons. Not sure who's reading of the Jacksons. Chantel. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. May he bless Chantel, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Amen. Okay, Chantel, you'll be the one to finish chapter 16 now, verses 9 through 16.
Can you hear me? Okay. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, Return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, See, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Yishmael, because Yahweh has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. And she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her, You are the El who sees. For she said, Even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Be'er Lahi Roi, See, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Chantel. And I just put that number system for anyone who is new and also for anyone who is old. 1 is yes, agree. Positive. 2, no, disagree. And 5 is typing something wrong. So there's that. And we all need reminders, right? Kifa says it. Wasn't referring to our number system, but hey. All right, next up we have Aaron. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Aaron, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Amen. Okay, Aaron. Second to last reader tonight, chapter 17, verses 1 through.
Hear me? And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old, that Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. And I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. And I shall make you exceedingly fruitful, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and to your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession. And I shall be their Elohim. And Elohim said to Abraham, As for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations, he who is born in your house, or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house, and he who is bought with your silver, has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child, who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Aaron. I saw a note from Chris above there. It says, Good job, women of Israel. Amen. Really such a blessing to have many of the women reading tonight. So thank you for that. It's awesome to hear both the men and the women read before one another. And so tonight, our last reader will be Raymond. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Raymond, who has come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Amen. All right, Raymond, you know the drill. Finish chapter 17, verses 15 to 26.
Mic test. And Elohim said to Avraham, As for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I shall bless her, and also give you a son by her. And I shall bless her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. And Avraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? Or is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? And Abraham said to Elohim, "Oh, let Ishmael live before you." And Elohim said, "No. Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzhak, and I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall bless him, and shall make him fruitful, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yitzhak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year." And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham, and Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that same day, as Elohim told him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same day. And all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner, were circumcised with him.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Raymond. And yeah, great job by all readers. And David and Amy say, wow, 150 computers on. Amen. It is really impressive. You know, as I, in the preparations for these studies, go back just a year. The Lech Lecha study last year was 75, 80 participants. So praise Yah indeed. It's amazing. And so, yeah, thank you to all readers who read before brothers and sisters. Definitely such a blessing. And so we're going to read the traditional closing blessing. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, David. Excellent job. Appreciate all the readers. And very good job by everyone. Weren't too many really tough genealogies in this one. That could really get to be challenging. But have no fear. We'll have more chapters like that coming soon. So what I'm going to do now is let me go over some quick announcements. I didn't get to wave hello. I should do that. Why don't we go ahead and wave hello? Now that my camera, I believe, works this time, I'll give a little wave hello. See if this will work. It works. And for those of you that are playing along, today's color was red. And as always, the color is silver. Okay. And we are going to be making a short video here soon to explain, the whole point of the coin and everything. I know some people ask about what's the deal with the coin. We're going to read about that in the book of Numbers, the Pidyon Haben, as well as understanding the way the military uses it as a challenge coin, etc. But anyway, let me turn my camera off. We had to see the camera was working again. Okay. Here's report that came in while reading. One of my remote jobs just gave me a raise after 2 years with the company. Good. About being a top producer, meriting favor. That's good. Awesome. Okay. All right. Will there ever be a solid white MTOI shirt or a yellow one to correspond with our colors? I'm thinking about it. And then I think what you should do is you should have to wear the shirt with the color you have least. So that would remind you to compensate. No, I'm just joking. And some of you may have noticed I wear a lot of blue, even though I have none. All right. That's right. You don't have any white. So I don't have white or blue, David. So at least you only have one devoid. I've got two zeros, two colors with nothing in them. All right. Okay. Now, so let me do some quick announcements, and then we'll get into the discussion portion. I may have David come up and continue. Hopefully everybody is noticing that David is doing a fabulous job of being discipled here and stepping in and helping, and that's really good. Okay. It does allow me time to, while I'm still listening to the study, I'm also able to multitask while you guys are doing that so I can get some things done. Because I don't know if you understand, but getting the building only made the amount of workload more, not less, at least at the moment. All right, so first of all, in the announcements, this Sunday the 21st, is meeting day. I know we thought it was going to be last Sunday, but I moved everything up a week. So this Sunday, the 21st, we're going to have the South African meeting at 10 a.m., the general full leadership at noon, and these are all Eastern time, and then the general session for all of you at 8 o'clock Eastern time in the evening, 8 p.m. Okay, so for all of you that are, like to participate in these meetings, it's going to be a really good one, I'm sure. And they always are, because you guys bring yourselves to it and add so much to these meetings. Okay, so those of you in leadership know who you are, and so you can be at the meetings on October 21st, which is a Sunday. Okay, thank you, David, for putting it in there. The general session is the one for all of you. Also, David did sort of mention it, but there's been a slight change in leadership there in Alberta, and David is now the administrative leader for the MTOI Alberta group. And so we're very excited for him. And please keep him in prayer. Okay, and hold nothing against any older leadership that has chosen to take a time out and go in a different direction. But we're excited for David, and as he is going to be doing kind of like what Gary does in Ohio and others do in different parts of the country. He's going to be doing in Alberta. Okay, with the assistance of Mr. Chris Zimmerman as well. So we do appreciate that team of, David and Chris, and hopefully that will work out really well as we go forward. Okay. That's right, a meet and greet. See, Earl's already excited to be there. Okay, so great praise to Abba for providing people as we need them, so that the group doesn't skip a beat necessarily if someone needs to head in a different direction. All right. Let's see, what else do I have on the thing here? Okay, the only other thing I have in the announcements is we will be announcing, for those of you that want to come, the official, I don't know what to say, the official grand opening of MTOI's new building. We are using it currently, but we are very heavy in the renovation stage. And so when we finish the renovations, there'll be a nice sign on the outside of the building. The inside will be completely redone. Hopefully some of you got to see some of the things we've already been able to do in the meeting space, in the Praise and Worship Center, where we turned the gym with all those chairs and everything into a nice place to do all of that. The rest of the building is still being worked on very, very aggressively and diligently, so we can get it done quickly. But we will announce when our official launch will be, and so if anybody wants to come for that, you'll have at least 1 week notice. I don't know if I'll be able to give more than that, but at least 1 week notice. So just thought we put that out there. The only other thing I have on the schedule here is that I know people, I don't know, we are taking some pictures. I don't know if there are any videos. That's right, Erin, sounds like a road trip to me too. You guys should all come, but we will announce when that will be. It'll be here in a couple weeks. All right, now, let's see. Passover, Pesach, all right? It's April 19th to 28th. By the way, for those of you that needed to know, the new dates are now for all of the 2019 feasts and days off that you need for next year are on the website. Okay, so you can go ahead and see those on the website. Somebody, Robert, if you could put a link there for everybody, that would be good. We'll get them a link for that. Okay, so the new calendar, not calendar, but the feast day schedule is on the website, on the Holy Feast Days page. Okay, now, so Passover is going to be like it was. Actually, the feasts are going to fall very similar to last year, or this year, I mean. You're going to have, okay, Raymond, no problem. The Passover is going to start on a Friday night. First Holy Day will be on Shabbat, and will end on a Friday, which means that we'll be staying wherever we're doing this through the weekend. Sukkot's going to have the same type of a thing as this year. It's going to start on a Sunday, and it's going to end start on Sunday night and end on a Monday night, which means we'll be leaving on Tuesday. Okay? Now, so both feasts will be more time, just like it was this year, a little bit longer. So we don't have an official lock-in that we're going to be at the YMCA for the feast. Again, for Passover, we're still working on that. There are some things that they are not able to do ideally for us, so we're still looking for other venues. So we'll announce that, excuse me, as things get closer on. Okay, so for right now, please be patient. We have not posted anything for Passover yet because we're still working on some things. All right, I think that's going to cover it for my announcements. Okay? And so, again, we're really excited about our new building. I was there today for some meetings. I'm looking forward to using it for more classes. We should be offering more things during the week, more programming coming out of the new building. I'm also hoping in the next week or two to record a short video explaining the legend of the coin, so to speak, so people know what the deal is with the silver coin. And so we'll have that posted here soon. Also, for those of you that are posting things to me in emails, Marco Polos, or any other form, please be patient. And actually, probably better if you just resend it in like a week if it's not urgent. If it's urgent, you should be making phone calls. We handle urgent things by phone. Urgent doesn't work by email because I'm not going to get to it quick enough. So please be patient with that. Okay. Okay, good night, Alice. No problem. Okay, Ocoee, Tennessee has a YMCA camp. Okay, well, we can, Michael, look at it for us and see what we can do. All right? We are looking for space to do these things. All right, so let's go ahead and get into tonight's study. I'm going to be listening in to jump in at some point if needed. Please call it that, the legend of the coin. We might do that. But I think I'd still like to let David get some good practice in here and lead the study while I'm here to observe and be like a safety net. But anyway, so David, go ahead and pick up again with the midrashic part of the study, and I'll be here if needed. I may not have the screen in front of me, so if you do want me, David, just kind of call out. I'll be listening, and I'll jump in if needed for that. Okay. Blessings and shalom. I definitely will be stopping in at the end to maybe bullet point through some things in case you don't cover.
I found $600.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Rabbi Steve. Wait, I saw Steve Waffle's hand up. And yes, for those who are new, just to remind everyone else, the Midrash, we're going to, look at, where do you see yourself in the portion, as Rabbi Steve says? How can we apply this to our walk? Of course, there's endless aspects that we can get into in terms of, even the sovereigns and the names and the ages. But we try to focus on the useful here at MTOI and how we can apply this to our walk immediately and becoming more like Yeshua. And so, Steve, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Yep. All right, good. All righty. For 12:1, I see here how Rabbi likes to tell everybody to see how we can apply it to our lives directly today in what we see. And so what I see here is how Abba tells Abraham to go, and we don't see Abraham trying to bargain with him on how and who, when. He just does what he's asked to do. And for me, that makes me want to look at how much I try to bargain when leadership or Abba asks me to do something, I should just be doing it, not asking only for details, not excuses of why I should or should not, or why I could or could not do what I'm being asked of. All right, I think that's it.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Waffle, and it's a great place to start right at the beginning of the portion, and definitely agree. And for others, if you have comments or questions, please feel free to type them in the box. I forgot to say that, or raise your hand. And so, yeah, absolutely, that Elohim, our Elohim, is telling us and giving us that instruction, and we don't see, as Rabbi says, we don't see a discussion there. No what ifs, but simply trusting, and that's the emunah. And that here, it is for our own benefit to leave that comfort zone often, as Steve Waffle referred to, because right in verse 2, after verse 1, it says, I shall make you a great nation. And studying this out briefly, it even mentions here, blessing you, making your name great, and making you a great nation. And, one possible kind of explanation of that is that the blessing in verse 2 indicate the blessings needed for traveling and uprooting, because it is often, very tumultuous to uproot. And so you would need to be, great in nation and population and have blessings and have a great reputation for traveling and uprooting. So it is our benefit to be able to leave that comfort zone and receive the blessings that follow. Rabbi Tom, I see your hand.
Thank you, David. If I could, I'd just like to share a thought that kind of ran through my mind. When Abram was told to leave his native land and go to some place he'd never seen before, really, he obeyed Almighty Yahweh's command. But the entire journey was not a cakewalk. He ran into problems over his wife. He ran into problems with his own nephew, Lot, and he was caught up in the midst of a war. So the thought that occurred to me was that just because we honestly believe that Yahweh tells us to do something or go somewhere, that doesn't mean that the walk is not going to be easy. It's going to have some pitfalls that we have to watch out for. We're going to have to be extremely careful. And it's not just going to necessarily be a smooth journey, and I think we have to expect that.
Amen. Absolutely. Often not a smooth journey, but we have to trust, and that's what the promises and the blessings are meant to show us, the emunah and patience of the delayed gratification, and to accept that what is coming in a believing and trusting state. So we'll do a quick ones and twos here, because it's something we like to do here on Torah study. And I see somebody said, Mary, not familiar with internet and how to communicate. Well, here in the chat box, Mary, feel free to type in any questions or comments you had, and we're going to do ones and twos, ones being yes or agree, and two being, Rabbi Steve has a comment. So go ahead, Rabbi Steve, and then I'll continue in my train.
Okay, this has come up, and so I just thought, because Rabbi Tom did address the idea of, being sent or being, thinking that you're being led to make a move or not, and how that all works. I want to make sure that I've sort of commented on, there's a lot of people that are observing and participating in this sort of move of a lot of you towards Tennessee. Okay, there's nothing in Scripture, nor is there anything that I have said that requires anybody to move to Tennessee. So we're clear. I think it's simply the outpouring of a desire to be together with other people when you are, especially if you live in an area where you don't have any fellowship. And so that's number one, is that no, this is not necessarily fulfilling of Scripture at this point. Okay, it's simply the logical move of people to be where they can be spiritually fed and also be a part of a community of believers. And so, as Steve just said, it's all about building a community. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, there are those that are asking questions like, well, how does this, if people are all coming to Tennessee, does that affect the Matthew 28 mandate? Let's understand, Matthew 28's mandate is not for all of us, where it says, go and make disciples of the nations. That is not everybody's job, okay? If I'm going to give you a task, I know that you would probably agree with me that you'd like to be assigned a task you're actually qualified for, that you're trained for, that you're prepared for, okay? So Matthew 28 is an instruction for those that Yeshua had trained and prepared to go out and do a job called discipling of nations, all right? I don't know, us millennials are ambitious. Thanks, AJ. Okay, so if you're ambitious, then go and get trained. Come and get trained and discipled, and then you can have maybe a role in that. But it's about understanding that this has never been Christianity has turned it into a mandate for everyone. And it wasn't a mandate for everyone. It was actually an assignment for the ones who he had trained personally. And so people gathering here in Tennessee doesn't affect that at all. As a matter of fact, we are broadcasting to all of you now all over the country. Only a very few of you live here locally that are here in the room. We have over 150, we have 151 in the room right now. And, I'm sure less than 30 or 40 of you actually live here near the congregation. The rest of you live in not only the rest of the country, but some of you live in other countries like Canada. Okay. So, and other countries other than that even. And so we are getting the word out. We are providing information to those who are scattered through YouTube and through this Adobe Connect and through the Facebook links, etc. But really, the mandate that we've been given as a ministry is to help provide for those that are isolated and scattered as we're preparing for when he, not us, but he will do the regathering. And the regathering, the rest of us want to live in Tennessee. I appreciate that. But the regathering is not going to be Chattanooga, Tennessee or Cleveland, Tennessee. It's a temporary location. All right? It's a temporary location for a lot of you to come and be a part of a fellowship. All right? Raymond pointed out that 90% of all of us, as well as 99% of all of those claiming to be teachers, are not qualified to fulfill the commission of Matthew 28. Amen. I agree. All right? So let's just realize that as we're looking at Abram being told in the beginning of the Torah portion to go, some of you may feel like Yahweh's telling you to go. Some of you may feel like Yahweh's telling you to go to be with some people either here in Tennessee or one of the other groups in Texas or Wisconsin or in Iowa, wherever it is, and Nebraska, and et cetera, and so, or Ohio. And so maybe you're led and to be going in those directions. But realize it's not a part of the bigger picture per se. It's a smaller piece that ultimately will be part of a bigger picture. The bigger picture is going to play out no matter where you end up living. So let's understand that. Some people are concerned that if we're all gathered in one place, it makes us a target or be harder for things. Well, in some ways, it'll be easier if Yahweh wants to grab us from one place. I personally think that one day, when he does start gathering people to go somewhere, we won't be gathered together in our houses where we live. We'll be gathered together at feast sites, and he will move us from there. So that's just my personal opinion, that it's more likely, it's just my guess, more likely that we will be at a Sukkot gathering or a Passover gathering, and he will then take us from there to wherever he wants to send us. All right? So let's just understand as we are looking at this that, yes, it's easy to trigger, not to be triggered, but to trigger some thoughts of, well, how does this apply to me? Everything we do in these studies is looking at it from a point of view like, how do I see myself in this? Well, you may see yourself in some ways like Abram. You're being asked to leave everything that you know behind to go be somewhere else where what you need is. You're being sent to where you need to be for what you need, to prepare you, to feed your family, to feed you spiritually, whatever it is. And that may be here for some of you. That really may be Tennessee. I'm not claiming, hey, everybody needs to come here because we're so great over here in Tennessee. I'm simply saying is that you want to walk out your own salvation and see what Abba's telling you. What is Abba telling you about where you're supposed to be, about where you're supposed to be doing your training and taking care of your family or whatever it is you need to be doing? Okay? Anyway, I just wanted to bring that out because I know this question has come up lately. because people are obviously noticing a move towards Tennessee. And quite frankly, I think at this point, we need to build a bigger building because we already had 108 people sitting in chairs this past Shabbat, and we only have 150 chairs. So, you know, so let's keep that in mind, all right? But there's no requirement to be here. Constance says, bloom where you're planted. Absolutely, all right? You're certainly, Abba will do whatever he has planned for you wherever you are. I just want to make sure that nobody should feel compelled or pressured, and certainly not by the ministry, to move here. Okay, TN equals Torah now. There you go. I like that. All right? But just, again, nobody should feel that they will be looked down upon or that they should feel pressured to move to Tennessee. We absolutely are not, you know, trying to encourage or pressure anybody to do that. We certainly appreciate anybody who wants to be here, and we help in the transition with guidance and counsel for people that want to come. By the way, that's another thing you need to know. If you're planning to come, we are not going to show up at your house, pack your house up for you, stick it in a truck, and drive it to Tennessee and take care of all your needs and all your expenses. We will offer guidance, counsel. You laugh. There are people that think we're going to do that. We'll offer guidance and counsel and maybe be some eyes and ears to help look at some things here for you in terms of connecting you up with some properties and things. We're not offering anybody housing. We don't have housing for people at this point. Okay. We need couches and hoverboards. There you go. All right. We are absolutely just looking for how we can help you in what you're already trying to do, but you've got to do the lion's share of the work. Joyce wants to know, can I ask for Yahweh visa for immigration to Tennessee? It's really probably not that tough to move from Canada to the U.S., so you can look into that. I know that we have people in this room. I know Bob and Yvonne spend half their time here in the U.S. You know, I mean, there's lots of people that are able to go back and forth fairly easily to the U.S. and between the U.S. and Canada, so it shouldn't be really just need a place to park the RV. We're working on that. Okay, we are actually working on possibly having a few acres where we can put some temporary housing and maybe an RV park or something like that. So these are all in the plans. Do you plan to have a school? Yes, we do plan to have a yeshiva, a school in the future for the congregation. We also plan to have the yeshiva set up so that some of you may want to come for a 6-month program or a 1-year program and then go back to wherever you go. And so, you know, wherever you live, and then you could always do that. So we got a lot of things in the plans. Okay? We got a lot of things in plans. Anyway, I didn't want to totally derail what this was, but I just thought the opportunity to clarify some things because of the nature of the conversation and what Rabbi Tom had said, it afforded me the excuse to come in here and go down the rabbi trail, as AJ just said. Okay? Anyway, so let me turn it back over to David.
All right. Thank you, Rabbi, for that. Very poignant and well spoken. So thank you. And so everybody else who had typed their questions, I copied them and pasted them. So I have them here. You don't have to repost them or repost them, and I can see them again rather than having to switch over. So we'll do a quick 1s and 2s quickly, just covering the whole aspect of in chapter 12. I know we've only got 2 verses, but I think this is important in terms of the direct application, and then we'll go through the questions, okay? No worries. Thanks for reposting. So this is going to be talking about delayed gratification. And so we're going to do it like this. When you have, you're waiting for something, maybe it's a paycheck, maybe it's, something in the mail, I don't know, anything you're waiting for, an application to come through, some sort of notice. When you worry about it and it finally comes, does it feel as good as not worrying about it and then just waiting for when it comes? I know that was worded kind of weird, but basically, is it better to wait trusting or wait worrying? Wait trusting. 3 is not sure. Sure, that works, AJ. yeah, I mean, I say this, that we have to accept in a trusting state, and that the delayed gratification, like I said before, is accepting whatever's coming, when and how and why, and that is the emunah and patience. Because I can tell you just from personally, just it doesn't feel, it's never as fun, it doesn't feel as good as just waiting for it to arrive and then knowing information in your head, okay, it's here, great, rather than truly appreciating it on its own time. And that it's not about the what if, well, what if this happens, but more of like a what if. I know those are the same two words, but it's more of a hopeful, like, what if Yahweh does this, rather than a, well, what if he doesn't? So I think that's just an important distinction there. All right, so we'll get through some questions before I have some other notes. Just going to go in order. We have Bereshit 15:6. It's from the Hoffman family, brings us back to the teaching. I often received as a Christian, believe and receive. I suppose this is half true, but I read Elohim reckons belief as righteousness. Can you elaborate in this verse, please? Thanks. Absolutely. So, a good testimony example there is in the book of James, chapter 2, verse 21 through 23, where James talks about, was not Abraham our father declared right by works when he offered Yitzchak his son on the slaughter place? Do you see that the belief was working with his works, and by the works the belief was perfected? And the scripture was filled, which says, and this is quoting 15 chapter 6, Abraham believed Elohim, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness. Verse 24, you see then, a man is declared right by works and not by belief alone. So there's a great example there, and there's more. I mean, all of chapter 2, James is talking about the importance of demonstration. But here in 15:6, it's showing again that, of course, the belief is there. We don't do anything that we don't believe. As the Rabbi explains, that actions are a three-dimensional manifestation of our belief. The verse in James chapter 2, verse 21 to 24. And so this aspect of belief, that he was reckoned for righteousness, well, it's not that he just knew and just said to himself, okay, I believe you, but it's actually committing, it's actually trusting, it's actually being it, versus just maybe saying it in your head. Belief is way more than just the idea of a belief or an idea. Is way more rooted in action and the actions you take. I hope that answers your question. Would trust obedience describe Abraham's faith in a more clear way? Sure, I know Rav Shaul, I know Paul talks about belief obedience. So trust obedience, of course. Because if he didn't believe, then he would have then responded to our Almighty saying, okay, yeah, I don't believe this and I'm going somewhere else. But he doesn't. You don't see any discussion or questioning there. So that indicates that the belief is in action, because your action, whether it's saying something or moving somewhere or anything else, would have demonstrated a different belief. On that same note, we have Raymond says, trust. Okay.
Okay, I want to say something I don't think I've ever said before about this section, and just to make it more simple, okay? What is righteousness? Righteousness, we've said, this is not the part I've never said before. Righteousness is doing what's right in the eyes of Yahweh. So when Abram believed what Yahweh said and believed in Yahweh, Yahweh reckoned that as doing what was right. It doesn't make him a righteous person. It doesn't mean that everything about him then going forward was righteous. It made him a righteousness. He just simply is telling us that believing in Yahweh, and in essence believing what Yahweh says, which is the essence of the covenant, is accorded to you as doing something that is a righteous act. Okay? So let's just keep that sort of that aha light bulb thing, yes, like AJ's put there. We overcomplicate this because the Christian mindset and the Christian teaching out there is to say that just believing, whatever that means, it's sort of this ambiguous concept, is righteousness. No, believing in Yahweh and believing what Yahweh said, and believing then in the covenant, which is when Yahweh says you do, which we can see Abram having no problem in obedience here, this is considered righteous. Not and he reckoned it on him, and he reckoned it. What is he, from the south? Well, I reckon that he was righteous. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun here, okay? The thing is, we don't speak that way. What he's saying was that he believed in Yahweh, and Yahweh saw this as a righteous behavior. That this behavior was to be credited to Abram as a righteous act. And by the way, it still was an act. It still was an action. So that's, I think, hopefully that helps. Does that help everybody a little bit? Maybe? Okay? All right? Because I think we are using this verse. Now, I appreciate that, the verses that David quoted, the ones that I like to use to help make this explanation very good, very important. Well, we see that all throughout Hebrews 11, that by belief, this one did that. By belief, that one did that. By belief. I mean, Abram's mentioned, by the way, in Hebrews 11, and in Hebrews 11 it said, and this is what was the belief that we quoted him to be called righteous. But the thing is, just believing in Yahweh is doing what is right. It's the right thing to do to believe in Yahweh. That in itself is a righteous act. It doesn't make you have a status of righteous. Let's be careful, again, we don't fall into the Christian trap of status assigning. Okay, we're not assigning status of righteous because of something called, well, he believed in him. So from that point forward, now Abram is righteous. Okay, righteous is not a status, like as in a label you get to keep forever. It's something that is accounted to you or accredited to you because of a decision or an action that you take. You know what? You are considered righteous every week when you show up on Shabbat. Did you know that? Every time you don't eat unclean, that's righteous. Every time you keep the feast, that's righteous. Every time you don't steal, that's righteous. Every time, but that doesn't make you a righteous person as a whole. It means you do things that are right, and hopefully on the whole, the balance is that you're a righteous person, because those things that you fall short of, you repent of and make teshuvah. Hopefully that now clarified this whole mess for everybody. Because this can really be something that the Christians want to whack at you with, because they really have this idea that it's only by belief. Well, but belief is just the thought and the emotion that lead to an action. It's because of verse 6 in chapter 15 that he's then able to go and offer up his son. Okay? That whole offering up of Isaac can't happen if he doesn't believe in Yahweh. It's not happening if he doesn't believe what Yahweh says, and Yahweh is who he is. So it's got to start with, everything that you do has got to start with you believing in Yahweh. I don't see how else we can get anywhere if we don't start with that. And so hopefully we're getting this more clarity here. This verse is simply saying that it's a very simple Peshat level. He believed in Yahweh, and Yahweh thought that was righteous. He said that's the right thing to do. And so this is it's not more complicated than that. But this is not what made Abram as righteous because of this one moment, because he believed in Yahweh. Now, he had to do a lot more things over time to demonstrate his righteousness. All right? So let's be careful. Well, yes, David and Amy, yes, Yah knew his heart, but more importantly, he saw his heart. He saw that he believed. And that's the important thing, is that he reckoned it, that it was called righteousness because he believed him. That he believed him. Okay? That's what you meant. Okay, good. All right, David, continue.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rabbi C, for that. And so, yeah, a lot of great comments about trusting and obeying and trusting, and that belief is just so deep. And really, that itself is an action. I mean, just what we've done individually and collectively with that belief, it's incredible and amazing. Okay, so I have got a couple other questions. that people asked. One in chapter 12 I want to cover here. This is about verse around 13 of chapter 12. So the question was about at least hiding the full truth about who she was for him. Elaborate on Abraham lying or what he's doing there. This is Tanya. Can you please? Absolutely. So here in verse 13, number one, this is not bearing a false witness. This is a lie, or you could say this is something that is being used to protect and avoid harm. A common example there, Rabbi Steve has explained, is if, you say to your grandmother, oh, that's a nice hat, and you don't think it's a nice hat. Or on a way different side of the spectrum, the Germans and others who hid Jewish families during the Holocaust. So they were technically lying, but this is not what the command is talking about in terms of bearing false witness. So here in verse 13, he's saying, this is his wife. They shall kill me, but let you live. Say that you are my sister, so it is well with you, and my life be spared because of you. And then we drop down and we see in 19 where Pharaoh is saying, why did you say she is my sister? So a couple things going on here. Number one, you see in 19 that knowing that it was Abraham's wife probably wouldn't have changed Pharaoh's behavior. You can see his response is a very why didn't you tell me approach and says, okay, go ahead. But also that Pharaoh was cursed due to the bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. And it doesn't have to be explicit cursing. And so this is, showing Abraham and also possibly hinting at Yah's dominance over Egypt. So there it is not, Abraham lying. And we need to be very careful with that as well, especially with one of our, fathers of Israel. This is a situation where we can see Elohim following through on a command of bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And I know Raymond made a great point, and I think last year's Torah study, that cursing can also be talking about making light of, not necessarily this explicit cursing. And so I hope that answers your question in 13. He's not lying. It is not doing anything incorrect or wrong. And so there's a lot going on here that shows of Elohim's promises and of the cursing and the blessing. Hope that helps. Another question here. Let's see if I have something else in chapter 12. Oh, and also in chapter 12, we have, that was it, sorry. So 13, I think this is 17, this is from Shira. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its breadth, for I give it to you. Even though we dwell far from the full land of the kingdom, she finds it very helpful to stop and ponder his covenant promises about the land and life of truth he has vowed to give to his faithful ones. It's the carrot that makes the stick worth bearing. Amen. That's great. And here's another one that we covered in, I think, last year's Torah study about these promises and the purpose of the promises, as Rabbi Steve is covering in the Are You Covenanted series. Okay, we'll do this, ones and twos again. Does anyone have the authority to change what Yahweh has said? Okay, now I'll take it a step further. Can Yahweh override himself of a promise that he had made? Right. He makes these promises, as we see, not even some between him and man, but between him and himself. As the never changing, he does not change. We say that I am Yahweh, I do not change. And so these promises are there for that reason. Okay, some questions in 13. Of something I wanted to cover. If someone doesn't have a question in 13, I'm just scrolling up to see the questions. There's a lot going on here, so please be patient. Oh, I just wanted to point out in 13:9, or 13:8, excuse me, how it's the strife between the herdsmen of Avram's livestock and Lot's livestock. So just an interesting point there, that often that strife happens from the bottom up, and the importance of leadership to identify that and really get out in front of it first. And Elohim does not tolerate strife. We see that throughout Scripture, especially in the Proverbs. Michael, go ahead quickly before we answer. Michael, you there? Can't hear you, Michael. Let me know if you're there. Arthur continues, 13:9, we should defer to another and give others the first choice, and do not worry. The Father will look after our needs. Amen. Scroll up here as we continue. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question was is there any significance to the gathering of the 3 lamb, the 3 goat, anything of that nature? I haven't been Trinitarian since I was 16, but I've heard Christian pastors preach that there was a symbolic meaning behind that. And that's it.
Okay, yeah, that covers a couple different questions about various sacrifices. Again, there's so many levels of Scripture, and I haven't studied this out. I don't know if somebody else has, or Raymond or Rabbi Steve, but of course there's going to be various levels of the drash or sod levels of Scripture that we don't know to this certain degree of what that means. Even certain sages have studied this out, and they have their best guess, but not fully understand. So I know that's not a great answer, but it's pretty difficult to gauge the exact meaning of that. I mean, we know that there's so many different layers, beautiful layers. And so, what we learned definitely at Sukkot was in these situations, maybe pray to the Father, hey, if there's, not say, hey, I'm talking to one another, but to the Father, please, if there's a meaning there that you'd like us to see, please reveal it to us, in your time, and see what it could be used for. Scroll down. Another one, chapter 12, and we're just going to power through here. Verse 16. There's just so much. We can never end this. Do you think Yah's hand was in this as a plan to increase Avram's wealth, blessings in times of scarcity? Definitely. I mean, this was part of the blessings when he told Avram to get up and go, was making him great. So he's following through there. Tom, Avram the Hebrew means to cross over. Yes, to cross over, to pass over, actually, one side to the other. So I had that in my note, and that's something that we actually talked about on the Marco Polo today. Avram the Hebrew, coming from the other side, and so it could be one meaning there of, as we come from our previous walks, walking in the futility of our minds, and to cross over into becoming Yeshua. I saw 15 verse 13. I think this is from Freddie talking about the bondage in Egypt. But Exodus 12:41 says 430 years. When I looked it up, there are claims that it was only 215. Is there something I'm not understanding correctly? So I know Rabbi Steve covered in parts 5 or 6 of Are You Covenanted that this would be referring to Egypt. There's also other possible explanations of the times that Israel also served others. But I would definitely double check with him. I don't know the exact timing of everything. Oh, yes. Raymond, he was asking about the significance of the sacrifices of the 3 in verse 9 of chapter 15. So, Freddie, I hope you heard me. Rabbi was talking about that in the Are You Covenanted part a couple weeks ago before Sukkot, about Egypt, but I'm not sure about the years. It's an indication of covenant language of, knowing for certain that these promises would be met, and that would have to happen before other things would happen. That's what Rabbi was talking about in terms of the covenanted language and promises of this relationship here to Avram specifically. Raymond?
All right, so just a couple of things. We don't always know at this point in time, and hallelujah for that, actually. We don't always know what different things symbolize, and that's actually, it's a good thing to see the progression and to know that we understand more about some things than we did 10 years ago, but less about some things than we did a couple thousand years ago. The bride is in a process. The bride is in a process right now. She had to go through a process of fleeing away into the wilderness, and in the process of fleeing away into the wilderness, she got a little disheveled and a little dirty. And in order for the bride to make herself ready, we've got to go through a period of cleansing and renewing. And so, that's not only talking about knowledge, of course, that's also going to be talking about our culture, becoming more Hebraic, becoming more authentic, and also about our understanding as well, our character and things that relate to that. But I'm not aware of anybody that claims to have an understanding about the multiples of the animals there that's ever made sense to me. What I can say is it's absolutely not supporting the Trinity. I did see that reference up above in the text now that I hear what the question was. That it's not going to be a support of the Trinity. It doesn't, that doesn't work. As far as what it is talking about, I'm not really able to say. What I am able to say is I'm glad that Elohim has still reserved some things, and in his mercy, is leaving more things for us to discover as time goes by. And there's another thing about the timeline, and that is, while I'm not much help on time-related things, that's always been a weakness of mine, I will say you don't want to confuse, and this is easy to do, but we don't want to confuse the distance between one set of events with the distance with another, and that is the time from when Yah gave the prophecy to Abraham and said that their release will be this many years from now is not to be equated with the whole time from when Pharaoh put them into bondage. So exile is one thing, bondage is another. Sojourning is one thing, bondage is another. And I hope that being able to draw those distinctions can help us a little bit when we look at the differences between years and say, well, this area says like 400, this says 430, and then somebody else does the math and they find 215. It's all about where you're counting from. That being said, it's not a fantastically rich and wonderful thing to get caught up on if we are hoping to refine our character and to focus these studies on the things that we can apply in our walk today.
Thank you, Raymond. Speaking of applying, there's one last point. I know we're about to finish up. I want to touch here before Rabbi Steve comes back, finishes up. In chapter 14, I know this related to a question about tithing to who in 14 verse 20. So here we have the role and the order of the Melchizedek, which is the righteous king. We also have here in verse 18 a reference to the Kiddush and Motzi, that the ministry is bringing out the bread and the wine. So we see here indication of, and Rabbi Steve says this at Oneg, every time that this is something that the Jews and Israel have been doing for ages. And so here we see it here in verse 18 of chapter 14, and that this Melchizedek is the priest of the Most High, and this is indicating to the priesthood that is responsible for teaching Torah. This is not the Levitical priesthood because that did not exist yet. So we have the priesthood of teaching Torah that has existed always, and that is what the verse of no end referring to. and that Yeshua being an order of the Melchizedek, he wasn't the Melchizedek referring here, but he was of that order, which is what the book of Hebrews is referring to. And so we see here the Melchizedek, and also the first example of, or one example of tithing, and that Abraham was tithing to Melchizedek. So even before the Levitical priesthood, and this is a great example for those who say, oh, well, there's no Levitical priesthood, we can't tithe. There's always been a need to tithe to the Melchizedek order. And so here, this is an example of tithing of those who are blessed of Yah, giving to the set-apart priesthood of Yah. So I wanted to cover that because this is one that often gets a lot of questions, and I think it's good to be tackling on from both the tithing perspective to the Kiddush and Motzi perspective, and also the Melchizedek being the righteous king, which if you study it out, a lot of Midrash references is actually, this is Shem teaching Abraham, and going forward there in the Melchizedek order. There you have, yep. Shem, Noah's son. And then one last one, quickly squeeze it in. This is chapter 17, verse 1. I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. We know there, Hebrew word tamim, being filled with integrity. So it's not that we're never going to make a mistake, because we know in our fallen state being perfect is impossible, but is what we do with integrity when we do make a mistake that defines what our Elohim and our Father is looking for. And I know there's a couple questions on Hagar and that aspect. And we're just going to finish here unless Rabbi wants to address that. I just remember from last year's Torah study, Rabbi Steve did say that Hagar was blessed because the child was a child of Abraham. And so for people asking why she was blessed, well, it was a child of Abraham there. In terms of its lineage to the Islamic Muslim religion, I haven't studied that out. We know that there is, he is considered a prophet in that regard, but I don't know about the exact origin. And so that's all I have, Rabbi Steve. I don't know if you want to address anything else or anything I missed. I know a couple other questions came through just now, but I know the 17.1 is one that you often hit, so I wanted to make sure we got that in for the halachic purposes.
Yep, thank you. No, excellent job. And I did resist jumping in on a few things this allow. I don't want to jump in too often, and I do appreciate that. Raymond brought up the point that I've often said that, when you do the count, that the count of the years was likely the count from when he told Abraham this, not from the point that they entered Egypt. So well put, Raymond. Good job. That is something that I have said many times. Okay. Also on my list to check off when you first said that I was going to come up was 17.1, the idea of being perfect versus being filled with integrity. Thank you for bringing that one up. Excellent job there. And also what we're going to see is in the Melchizedekian, you see the first reference to Kiddush and Motzi. Okay, there's a Kiddush and Motzi reference here because it says that Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalom, brought out bread and wine. Now he was the priest of the Most High. So they had the bread and the wine. Okay? And so you can see here that he brought out the bread and wine. So this is your Kiddush and Motzi. So the ceremony is not communion. The Jews have been doing it for a very long time. And even before there were Jews, they were doing it, obviously, because here in Genesis there are no Jews yet. You have Abram and you have Melchizedek, and they're doing Kiddush and Motzi. Okay? And so we see that. And those are the blessings we traditionally do before we eat after services. And the Hebrew words for the ceremonies is the wine would be Kiddush and the bread would be Motzi, or the Motzi. Okay. So that's another one to point out in chapter 14 and verse 18. So you have that. You have circumcision being dealt with in chapter 17. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. And so this is, circumcision is not Mosaic. It's pre-Moses. So we have no argument that someone might say, well, that Moses' law was done away with. The Moses' law had to do with the circumcision. No, It did not. It had to do with covenanting, and it's always been a part of covenant. And as we've been teaching lately, covenants build upon covenant. They don't take away from. So there was, if you see something in a covenant, the next covenant includes the previous covenant as they build upon them. Okay? And I think that was all I wanted to add here. I think you guys did a very, very good job today. Thank you, and blessings to all of you. We are going to continue, of course, next week with Vayira as we go into chapter 18. And this is the chapter where we get to see Abram show his hospitality. Okay? This is where Abram gets to show his hospitality. Okay. So, again, good job, David. And we really appreciate your interaction here. Everybody seems to be having audio. So someone type into the Fergusons that there's audio. Okay. Okay, audio is fine here. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to do a little countdown here. When the countdown gets to 0, we do go ahead and close the room. David, why don't you get the camera on here? I'll put the pod up, and you can wave to everyone.
Okay, and then we'll have one of the men close in prayer.
That's right. I forgot about that. Sorry about that. I jumped in and forgot you hadn't done that yet. Go ahead and wave first, and we'll have one of the men close us.
All right. Let's see. Hello. Shalom, shalom. Give you one of these. Oh, and there we are. I was waving to myself for the first 5 seconds. Not the first time or the last time. Shalom, give you a coin scratch. Working together to serve the body. That's why we're here. Thanks, everyone. Love you guys.
All right, so David was waving to himself, and I was apparently talking to myself. Anyway, again, excellent job, everyone. Thank you for participating. You know, at Sukkot, we get to do this for a lot more than just an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it's really nice to have that extra time. And so, you know, really, really good to see the participation here in the amount of time we have. One day, we'll be able to study, as Tevi would say, 7 hours every day. Wouldn't that be great? All right. I'm going to turn off my camera. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Let's see. What was this? Video pod? All right. Now back to the count. Nope. We have to get men. I need someone to pray. Who opened up prayer? I don't remember who did the opening. Earl. Okay, let's pick somebody else. How about, I don't know, let's see. Oops. You know what? You did the study. David, pick somebody.
Okay. Let's go with Gary Flint.
Okay, is my mic working? It seems to have its moments. Okay. Alright. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Yahweh, we just thank you and praise you for your favor, your mercy, your long-suffering, your loving kindness. And Yahweh, we just come together praising your set-apart name and reading your Torah. And Yahweh, we just thank you for your precious word and this opportunity to gather together as the Mishpachah. And Yahweh, we just pray that those things that we read tonight, that you would give us eyes to see and ears to hear, and to prepare our hearts, and to take those things that we can take from this Torah portion and apply to our lives, that we may walk upright before you in bringing only honor and glory to your name, and never bringing shame.
We just thank you for everyone's participation, and thank you for your leadership that you have given us. And we just give you all the praise, the honor, and glory, asking you to watch over us as we go our separate ways, as we go through the rest of this week, as we look forward to Shabbat and the chance to gather again together as Mishpachah. We ask it all in the authority of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, Gary. And we'll go ahead and start the countdown again. So there we go. Again, blessings to everyone. How soon are the Torah studies posted on the site? The next day, usually. We did not have a Torah. The last Torah study we had was on the, I don't think what date it was in September, but that's about right. We didn't have them for the 2 weeks right before Sukkot, so they do get posted pretty quickly. Let me just, whoop, hold on. All right, sorry about that. One of our newer members thought that once I waved that I shut the room and wanted to call right away. Didn't realize the countdown actually takes a little while as we slowly let the numbers go up on the screen. So I don't even know what we're up to here. We're up to 9 or 8 or 7. So we just kind of get some in there. Okay. So anyway, good week. Have a great week. Be blessed. Have a good night. Let's see. Raymond, yes, you can call. Give me about an hour. Okay? But otherwise I can call you sooner. Actually, let's see, I got a bunch of people typing in about calling. Beverly was asking to call as well. Olivier and Janet, when can we call you? If anybody can call tomorrow during the day, that would really be good. I'll be available after 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, Jonathan also. Jonathan, if you want to give me a call a little later, hopefully I can remember to call you guys. Just take a shot. If I'm on the phone, I'll take your number and call you back or whatever. But you guys need to make sure that you're calling. We can call you at 11 Eastern time. Okay. So Olivia and Janet can call me tomorrow. Raymond, I'll talk to you tonight. I've got this one call first. Beverly, I think I have your number, so I could try to call. I'm going to write these things down so I don't forget. We'll see if I can kind of work them out. Okay, so I've got Raymond, Beverly, Jonathan. Okay, but I don't have the phone unforwarded. Okay, Robert, you want to just unforward the phone, and that way people call, they'll call the office line for right now, and then I'll forward it back later. Yeah, Beverly, if you can call me tomorrow, that'd be better. You can call during the day tomorrow, that would be better. This way I only really need to deal with Raymond, Jonathan, and this other call that came first. And Beverly, do you have my cell phone or just the office phone? Because when you called last night, you called the office phone. Okay, you don't have my cell phone. Okay, that would explain why you called the other phone. Oh, wow. YouTube is down worldwide. Really? Wow. Let me see. Yeah, it is not working. Goodness. I'm just clicking on a few things here just to see what happens, and nothing seems to be working. Wow. All right, so Jonathan, you can call the office number, the 423-825-4975. Raymond, you can call my cell phone. Or I'll try to call you back as soon as I get off this other call, Raymond. And then Beverly and Olivia, you guys can call tomorrow. Is there anybody else that wanted to call that I missed? Okay, nobody. Okay. I can't seem to, my scroll thing won't scroll. I can't scroll within the chat. Okay, but I know where I'm up to. So let's just continue as we kind of move through this. Freddie, that's not a problem. Give me a call tomorrow night. All right. If anybody in the room owes us anything for merchandise purchased at the marketplace at Sukkot, please take care of that. If anybody still owes us any money for Sukkot, please take care of that as soon as you can. I hate chasing people down. Please don't make me do it. All right? You know who you are if you're in the room, so please help us with that. I'm going to continue the countdown. That's right. 5 brought 4, 3, and 2, and then keep going. Is the marketplace back up and running? Yes, it is. And Robert, I do have 2 email purchases that I also put on the pile for you for tomorrow that came in from the marketplace. So I have those. Okay. That's going to pretty much do it. As we get down to the 0, I got to take these calls and get those things going. So blessings and good night, shalom, and we'll see you guys on Shabbat.